What if I told you that you don't just feel the tension when you walk into a room of fighting in-laws?
Yeah, that it's not just a vibe.
Right. You are actually absorbing a measurable high-frequency electrical radiation from their brains.
It sounds like sci-fi, but it's really not.
Exactly. So, welcome to the deep dive into the source material. We've got a fascinating stack of research today, pulling together clinical psychology, neurobiology, and these transpersonal frameworks to understand this thing we're calling the collective blueprint.
We're basically looking at exactly how human nervous systems interact in those really high-stakes group settings.
And, well, more importantly, how you can take absolute control of that interaction. Because, man, we have all been there.
Oh, definitely.
To really set the stakes for this, I have to give you a personal example. So think about the absolute crucible of social events, right? For me, it was the very first time I went to my now partner's childhood home for a major holiday dinner.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is the ultimate test.
It really is. I mean, I remember pulling up to the house, putting the car in park, and taking this massive, shuddering breath before even walking up to the front door.
Because you know what you're walking into.
Right. Like you aren't walking into a sterile corporate conference room where you have an agenda, a designated seat, and a PowerPoint to hide behind.
No, you are walking into a deeply entrenched, decades-old ecosystem.
Literally. So I opened the front door, and before anyone even took my coat, I hit a literal wall of weird, thick energy.
The infamous wall.
Yes. No one was yelling. There were no plates flying, but my chest immediately tightened up. I was suddenly sweating through my shirt.
Your breathing probably got really shallow, right?
Shallow and fast. I spent the next 3 hours white-knuckling a gravy boat, just feeling like I was in a war zone. And when I finally left, I was more physically exhausted than if I had just run a half marathon.
You see, that physical exhaustion, that is the key indicator of what is actually happening in that environment.
Wait, so it's not just me overreacting?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Science completely maps this out. You are stepping into a biological storm. I mean, for a long time, we just dismissed that sensation as, getting a bad vibe or relying on some mystical intuition.
Right, like it's just in your head.
Exactly. But it is pure neurobiology. The human brain is equipped with this highly sophisticated network of mirror neurons.
Okay, mirror neurons.
Yeah, and from an evolutionary standpoint, their entire job is to actively read and interpret the states of the organisms around you.
So they're like little radar dishes for survival.
That's a great way to put it. Because think about it, if you are in a tribe and 3 people suddenly detect a predator, you don't have time to wait for them to explain it to you.
Right, you'd be eaten while they're giving the presentation.
Exactly. Your mirror neurons read their biological shift and instantly trigger your own fight or flight response.
Oh, wow. So when I walk into that tense dining room.
Those mirror neurons are instantly picking up on the invisible high-frequency electrical output of the dysregulated nervous systems in that room.
So my brain is reading their stress and internalizing it as an immediate physical threat to my own survival.
You got it. It's a literal biological frequency that your brain is downloading.
That is wild. Okay, so what does that actually look like? Like if we hooked my in-laws up to a monitor in the middle of a passive-aggressive argument about the turkey, what are we seeing on the screen?
Well, we can actually look directly at Dr. Trishlee's brain mapping research for that exact visual.
Oh, perfect. What does her data show?
According to her EEG data, when you step into that tense family dinner, the brains in that room are firing in what are called beta waves.
Beta waves.
Yeah, and these are fast, jagged, chaotic electrical frequencies. They are highly associated with stress, intense focus on external threats, and primal survival.
So it's literally a room full of people biologically bracing for an attack.
Yes, and the fuel for that chaotic beta state is cortisol.
Ah, cortisol.
Yeah.
The stress hormone.
Exactly. Think of cortisol as this harsh, panic-inducing high-octane fuel. It's what your body uses when you are white-knuckling a luxury sports car down a massive, chaotic, multi-lane highway.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You're going 90 miles per hour, you're swerving through traffic, your heart is pounding, and you're constantly riding the brakes just to avoid a catastrophic collision.
Wow, that is exactly what a tense family dinner feels like internally.
Right. That is a cortisol-driven beta state. And it is completely toxic to your system over prolonged periods. That's the energy swirling around the table.
Man, Okay, so the mission for our deep dive today is to figure out how to pull that sports car off that terrifying highway.
Yes, to get out of that traffic.
We want to take the scenic, natural, winding B road instead. The source material maps out this precise blueprint for how you can rewire your own nervous system to achieve collective coherence.
Meaning we want to shift an entire room from that chaotic, jagged beta state into a calm, flowing, synchronized alpha state.
But okay, honestly, looking at this research, I have a massive gap I need to cross first.
What's the gap?
I mean, I'm just one person. They're an entire family with like 30 years of shared drama.
Yeah, that's a lot of history.
Right. I can't just command my brain to be calm when I'm being bombarded by their beta waves. And I certainly can't overhaul my entire personality 5 minutes before they serve the appetizers.
No, absolutely not. Your brain is going to reject any massive, sweeping change you try to make in the heat of the moment.
So what do I do?
Well, you can't walk in and magically change the room if your own internal systems are misfiring. You need a foundational method for installing new behaviors without triggering your own stress response.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the sources bring us a very elegant framework for this from Matt Santi. He's a clinician who focuses on high-density behavior change.
Oh, right. The 2025 RRRR coaching cycle.
Exactly. It stands for Read, Reflect, Rehearse, Reward. And the beauty of it is that it bypasses the brain's natural resistance to change by strictly limiting cognitive load.
I really love how Santi breaks this down, so let's translate this into a vivid analogy for you listening. Think of preparing for this family dinner like trying to beat an impossibly hard, terrifying boss in a video game.
Oh, I like this.
So the first R is read. When you are stuck on a video game boss, your instinct is usually to just furiously mash the controller buttons for 6 hours straight, right?
Until your thumbs bleed and you throw the controller at the wall, yeah.
Exactly. And in the real world, this looks like buying 5 different self-help books, highlighting every page, and trying to memorize complex psychological theories the night before the dinner.
Which is system overload. Your brain just panics.
Right. Instead, Santi says you just pause the game, you pull out your phone, and you watch highly specific, dense 15-minute tutorial video.
You consume one skill-dense concept.
Just one. You keep the input incredibly dense, but strictly short, like no more than 20 minutes.
And that brevity is so important. It's what prevents the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, from interpreting the new information as an overwhelming demand.
Got it. So once you have consumed that short tutorial, you immediately move to the second R, which is reflect.
Right. And Santi requires a strict 3-sentence cognitive audit here.
Just 3 sentences.
Just 3. You ask yourself 3 precise questions. 1, what belief did this new information challenge? 2, what specific behavior am I going to try? And 3, what emotion might shift as a result?
So going back to our video game boss, that 3-sentence cognitive audit is like taking a bright yellow Post-it note and writing down the exact 3-button cheat code you just learned from the tutorial.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, and you stick it right on the edge of your TV screen. Because in the heat of battle, when the video game boss is shooting fireballs at you, or, when your partner's father asks you a highly critical question about your career.
Your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, just goes completely offline.
Exactly. You panic and forget everything. So you need that externalized 3-sentence cheat code to fall back on.
Which leads right into the third R, which is rehearse. And this is the biological rewiring phase.
How does the rehearsal actually work?
It consists of a 2-minute mental simulation, followed by a 5-minute physical micro-rep.
Okay, break that down for me.
Sure. So during the mental simulation, you close your eyes and vividly imagine the exact scenario. You picture the dining room, you hear the specific tone of voice of that difficult relative, you literally feel the tension in your chest.
You really put yourself there.
Yes. And then you visualize yourself successfully deploying the new boundary or behavior. After that, you execute the 5-minute micro-rep in reality.
Okay, I have to push back on this 5-minute micro-rep thing.
Oh, why is that?
Let's say I know this dinner is going to be a 3-hour marathon of psychological warfare, right?
Sure.
How does practicing a boundary for 5 measly minutes on a Tuesday morning actually prepare me for a 3-hour onslaught?
It feels a little underwhelming.
Yeah, it feels like practicing your golf swing with a plastic club in your living room and then stepping onto the course at the Masters. It just doesn't seem proportional to the threat.
I hear you, but it seems disproportionate until we look at the underlying physics of behavior change. Specifically, the concepts of static versus kinetic friction.
Okay, physics. Lay it on me.
Imagine a massive heavy boulder sitting on flat ground. It takes an astronomical amount of energy, that's static friction, just to get that boulder to budge a single millimeter.
Right, it's exhausting just to start.
Exactly. But once it is rolling, once you have kinetic momentum, it takes significantly less energy to keep it moving.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Right. When you are terrified of an upcoming family interaction, the static friction in your brain is massive. Your nervous system is screaming at you to avoid the discomfort.
So the 5-minute micro rep isn't about solving the whole thing.
No, it is not designed to solve the whole 3-hour dinner problem. It is designed solely to break the static friction. You teach your nervous system biologically that you can engage with a difficult concept for 5 minutes and survive.
You prove to the primal brain that the new behavior doesn't equal death. And once the tires are gently rolling on that scenic B road, you lock in the momentum with the final R, which is reward.
And this isn't about like buying yourself an expensive watch or pouring a massive glass of wine.
Although those sound nice.
True, but it's about providing yourself with a small, intrinsic reward immediately after the micro rep.
Like giving yourself a literal high five.
Yeah. You step outside, close your eyes, and take one deep, intentional breath of fresh air while acknowledging your own competence.
So you wire a tiny hit of dopamine directly to the completion of the hard task.
You got it. You are proving to your neurobiology that traveling the B road actually feels good. So the RRRR cycle is really your foundational maintenance program.
It allows you to systematically install small, sustainable upgrades to your psychological vehicle without blowing the engine.
Exactly.
But here is the reality of the B road. It's not always perfectly paved, and sometimes a giant tree falls right in the middle of it.
That's a very fair point.
I mean, the RRR framework is brilliant for controlled habit building. But what happens when you are sitting at the dinner table, someone passes the potatoes, and your partner's mother makes a seemingly innocent comment that violently reactivates a 10-year-old trauma?
Yeah, that happens all the time.
A 5-minute micro rep is not going to save you when your nervous system goes into full systemic shock. For that level of crisis, we need something vastly more powerful.
We need macro healing.
Yes, macro healing.
And for that, the source material turns to the transpersonal frameworks of Don Miguel Ruiz. He identified that to truly flourish in group settings and to maintain a sovereign alpha state regardless of the chaos, we must undergo interventions that kill the root causes of our dysregulation.
And he outlines 3 distinct macro healing paths for this.
Yes, he does. And the first path is the most dramatic. He calls it the angel of death, or crisis healing.
Wow, that sounds incredibly intense.
It is. The sources explain that confronting our own mortality or surviving a severe life-altering crisis violently and permanently resets our perspective.
Okay, so neurobiologically, why does that work?
When you experience a profound life-threatening event, the brain's survival architecture completely overrides the prefrontal cortex. The system is flooded with adrenaline and cortisol to keep you alive.
Right, pure survival mode.
But when you survive and emerge on the other side, there's often a massive recalibration of your baseline neurotransmitters.
Because the brain recognizes it just survived the ultimate threat.
Exactly. Suddenly, the trivial social anxieties like a relative's passive-aggressive comment at a dinner party, they just fail to register on the threat matrix.
Oh, because the amygdala simply doesn't flag it anymore. The baseline for what constitutes a threat has been violently shifted.
Precisely.
The texts actually provide some visceral examples of this. Think of Lance Armstrong. I mean, before his diagnosis, he was a talented cyclist, sure, but he didn't achieve his legendary, almost terrifying level of focus and dominance until after he battled and healed from severe testicular cancer.
Confronting the angel of death completely rewired his mental landscape.
Yeah, or consider the author Weiwei, who is mentioned in the research. He stated that he spent his early life wrapped up in ordinary anxieties and mental fog.
And what changed for him?
He said he could only truly see the world clearly, with profound alpha-coherence after a horrific accident where a literal rock fell on his head.
Wow.
Yeah. The crisis killed the root causes of his anxiety because it forced a total systemic prioritization.
It is a radical path, obviously, and not one we can or should actively seek out. Don't go looking for falling rocks.
Please don't.
But understanding the mechanism that deep-rooted fears can be permanently overwritten well, that leads us to Ruiz's second path.
Which is much more actionable for daily life.
Yes, subconscious reprogramming. This path operates on the understanding that our outsized explosive reactions in group settings are almost always the result of hidden programming.
Okay, let's use a real scenario to map this out. Let's say you're at a family wedding. You're feeling good, sipping some champagne, having a nice time.
Sounds lovely so far.
Right. Suddenly, an ant walks up, looks you up and down, and delivers a classic passive-aggressive compliment about your outfit. Something like, "Ah, you are so brave to wear that color."
Ouch.
Instantly, your heart rate explodes, your palms sweat. You feel this surge of intense anger and shame.
Even though the comment itself was just words vibrating in the air.
Exactly. The explosion happened because those words hit a hidden script in your subconscious.
And the thing is, that hidden script usually has absolutely nothing to do with the ant or the outfit.
Wait, really? Then what is it about?
The script was likely written decades ago, perhaps in childhood, coding a deeply held belief. A really common one is the evolutionary equation that criticism equals rejection from the tribe, and rejection from the tribe equals death.
Oh, wow. So when the ant criticizes you, your body reacts as if a predator just stepped out of the bushes.
Exactly. So subconscious reprogramming requires treating this like microinvasive surgery.
Okay, how does that work?
You have to trace the electrical wire from the current emotional explosion all the way back into the dark basement of your subconscious. You hunt down that original faulty script, logically erase it, and replace it with a structurally sound statement.
Like what?
Like, I am safe, I am an adult, and her opinion does not determine my survival.
Okay, I understand the value of that, but honestly, if I have to perform microinvasive surgery on my own psyche every time someone insults my tie, I'm going to be completely exhausted.
It is a lot of work.
It is. I don't want to spend my life analyzing every single trigger. And I definitely don't want to wait for a rock to fall on my head to get the clarity of the angel of death. There has to be a more proactive defense.
Well, there is, and it's Ruiz's third path of macro healing. It's called the warrior's discipline.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
This path does not rely on a sudden crisis, nor does it require constant psychological surgery. It relies on raw, unrelenting willpower and daily discipline.
It's the path of the martial arts monk who controls the mind through extreme mastery of the body and the routine, right? The sources detail exactly what this monk-like routine looks like, and man, it is rigorous.
It really is. It involves waking up hours before dawn when the world is completely silent and the chaotic beta energy of society is just dormant.
So you're getting up at like 4 or 5 a.m.?
Exactly. And then you engage in intense, structured breath work to manually regulate your nervous system. And you perform rigorous physical exercise before sunrise on a completely empty stomach.
The biological strategy behind exercising in a fasted state at dawn is fascinating to me.
Why is that?
Well, by exerting extreme physical effort before eating, you intentionally spike your cortisol and adrenaline in a controlled environment. You force the body to burn its reserves.
Right. So by voluntarily subjecting your nervous system to this acute stress early in the morning, you essentially drain the chaotic energy.
It creates a refractory period of deep calm later in the day.
It does, and the discipline extends beyond the physical, too. It involves going to a temple or just a dedicated quiet space to pray, meditate, and deeply study complex Vedic or Buddhist texts.
You anchor the mind in profound philosophical truths.
Exactly. You rigidly structure your day into small, intentional slots, and you go to sleep early, again on an empty stomach.
Allowing the body to focus entirely on cellular repair rather than digestion.
Yes.
And the purpose isn't to punish yourself. The purpose is to build an impenetrable armor of calm.
Right.
By executing that daily B-road discipline, you are training your nervous system to hold an alpha state so powerfully that when the ant makes her comment, it simply bounces off the armor. I mean, you've already conquered far harder physical and mental challenges before 5 a.m.
Exactly. The ant is nothing compared to the workout you did.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Microsurgery takes years of therapy. The 5-layer AM monk routine takes a level of discipline I might not have access to right now.
That's very common.
So if my brain is just a mess of anxiety and I have this dinner in 3 days, I need a physical way to map this out before I get there, because honestly, sitting and thinking about my anxiety just creates more anxiety.
That is such a crucial point. When abstract thought loops become the enemy, we have to bypass the analytical brain entirely.
How to do that?
The source material introduces this fascinating somatic tool for this. It's Bern Hellinger's spatial coaching adaptation. specifically a self-coaching technique using family constellations with paper.
Okay, I want to walk through the mechanics of this because it sounds wild, but it makes so much sense.
It really bridges the gap between the abstract subconscious and physical reality.
Right. So imagine you are alone in your living room. You take a stack of colored construction paper. On each piece, you write down one core element of the upcoming dinner.
So one paper represents you.
Yes. One represents your partner's father. Another represents the overarching feeling of anxiety. Another represents a peaceful, successful dinner.
And maybe you even have a paper representing a deceased relative, like a grandfather, whose strict legacy still silently dictates the family's behavior.
Wow, yeah. So you've identified all the key nodes of the emotional network. But the crucial twist is that you place these colored papers on the floor of your living room, face down.
Face down?
You shuffle them around. Your conscious, logical brain has absolutely no idea which paper is which.
And that is the secret.
But why does placing them on the floor matter? Why not just draw a map on a whiteboard or something?
It's because of how our brains evolved to process spatial relationships. We possess deeply ingrained spatial mapping circuitry.
From our hunter-gatherer days.
Exactly. From an evolutionary perspective, we are significantly better at understanding where a predator is located in a forest relative to our own body than we are at untangling abstract childhood emotions.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
So Hellinger's technique leverages that ancient spatial circuitry. Even when your conscious mind loses track of which paper is which, your subconscious body often tracks the energy and placement of those concepts in physical space.
So you begin the self-coaching process by physically moving through the room. You step onto one of the face-down papers, and you stop.
You don't try to think.
No thinking. You tune into your immediate somatic bodily reactions. Like, does your chest suddenly feel incredibly tight while standing on this specific blue paper?
Do your shoulders tense up? Does your breathing get shallow?
Exactly. You register the physical feeling, and then you flip the paper over. And you discover it's the paper representing the father-in-law.
By placing the elements in physical space, you are externalizing abstract neural connections into physical geometry.
Because your body knows exactly how it feels about that relationship, but your conscious mind suppresses it with logic, right? Telling you, oh, I'm fine, it's just dinner.
Yes, the mind lies, but the body doesn't. Stepping on the paper forces the somatic truth to the surface. It allows you to see the hidden dynamics visually.
Like, you might realize that you subconsciously place the anxiety paper directly between the paper representing you and the paper representing your partner.
Exactly. You are physically mapping your own emotional minefield without letting your overactive thinking brain interfere.
Man, that is powerful. Okay, so I've mapped the minefield, I've done my RRR prep, but now the preparation phase is over.
You're in the trenches.
I am physically sitting at the dinner table.
Yeah.
The roast beef is being served. The chaotic beta energy in the room is swirling like a hurricane.
You can feel the static.
The father-in-law clears his throat, and the aunt makes her move. My heart rate starts to spike. All the paper maps in the world won't help if I can't hold my alpha state right then and there. I need a panic button under the table.
You absolutely do. You need an immediate behavioral amendment that requires zero cognitive load.
Because my brain is already short-circuiting.
Right. And the sources point to a specific intervention from neurolinguistic programming for this. It's called anchoring.
Anchoring.
Yes, it is a universal mechanism for in-the-moment state control. To understand why it works as a panic button, we look at Hebb's postulate.
That's a foundational principle of neuroscience, right?
It is. It simply states neurons that fire together wire together.
Fire together, wire together. I love that.
So if you experience a peak emotional state, and at the exact moment of that peak you apply a unique physical stimulus, the neural networks processing the emotion and the neural networks processing the physical touch will forge a permanent synaptic link.
Okay, so let's give you listening the exact blueprint for how you built this panic button weeks before the actual dinner.
Yes, let's walk through it.
Imagine you were out on a beautiful Sunday drive. You are cruising down that scenic, winding B road in nature. The sun is shining, your favorite music is playing, and you are feeling a sense of absolute sovereign peace.
Your brain is radiating pure alpha waves.
Exactly. At the absolute peak of that feeling, you took your right thumb and firmly pressed a very specific knuckle on your left hand.
You held it there for a few seconds while just bathing in that feeling.
You intentionally fired those neurons together, wiring that specific physical touch to the feeling of absolute peace.
You engineered a biological switch.
That is so cool. Okay, so let's return to the dining room table.
The tension is spiking. The insult is delivered.
Your amygdala is preparing to launch a beta wave panic response. But under the dinner table, completely out of sight of everyone, you take your right thumb and you press that exact same knuckle on your left hand.
And instantly, an electrical signal shoots from your hand, up your spinal cord, and directly into the brain.
Because that pathway was heavily wired on the B road, right? So pressing the knuckle acts as a floodgate.
It forcefully floods your nervous system with the biochemicals associated with that B-road alpha state.
It acts as a massive circuit breaker. It overrides the chaotic beta energy trying to hijack your brain at the table. You take a breath, your heart rate settles, and you hold your ground.
Exactly. You are back in control.
Which leads to the ultimate question, and really the true climax of everything we've discussed today.
Okay, lay it on me.
I am sitting at the table. I am surrounded by an ecosystem of stress and familial tension. But I've pressed my anchor. My heart rate is slow, my breathing is deep, and my brain is radiating a powerful, calm, coherent alpha frequency.
You are completely regulated.
Yes. So what happens to the room when I hold that frequency?
This is where it gets really amazing. We return to Dr. Trish Lee's EEG data and the science of entrainment.
Entrainment, like rhythm.
Yes. In physics, if you place several pendulum clocks on a wall, their pendulums will eventually synchronize to the rhythm of the largest, most dominant clock.
Wait, automatically?
Automatically. And the same principle applies to human brainwaves. Because of the mirror neurons we discussed at the start, the other brains in the room are subconsciously monitoring your frequency.
Okay.
When your alpha brainwaves are remarkably strong and stable, they act like that dominant pendulum. Slowly, surely, the chaotic, jagged beta waves of the stressed-out people around you begin to physically alter.
No way.
They begin to align and entrain to your rhythm.
Wait, so my internal calmness is physically altering their neurobiology? I become like a biological metronome for the room?
Yes, you are providing a biologically stable frequency that their dysregulated nervous systems actually crave. Humans are flock animals. Our biology desperately wants to co-regulate to find safety.
So when I provide a strong, safe, unshakable signal, their systems will naturally attempt to match it, to conserve energy.
Exactly. This is the biological validation of what Napoleon Hill described nearly a century ago as the mastermind.
Oh, Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, Hill proposed that when two or more minds sync up, a literal third mind emerges a collective intelligence and harmony greater than the sum of its parts.
Which was considered mystical philosophy for decades, right?
It was. But EEG mapping proves it is a measurable physiological reality. Neural synchronicity is how a collective mastermind is formed.
That is just incredible. So how do you actually wield this? The sources outline 3 strict prerequisites for you to intentionally achieve this collective mastermind at your own tense family event.
And prerequisite number 1 is completely non-negotiable.
You must regulate yourself first.
Yes. You cannot fake the alpha state.
Yeah.
If you are secretly seething with anger but plastering a fake smile on your face, your mirror neurons are still broadcasting beta wave distress.
And people pick up on that, right?
Absolutely. The people around you will feel the dissonance and actually become more agitated. You must use your knuckle anchor to drop genuinely into an alpha state before you even attempt to influence the room.
That makes total sense. Prerequisite number 2, match energy, not emotion.
This one is tricky for a lot of people.
It is. If the room is incredibly intense, say an argument is brewing about politics or money, you do not shrink back, whisper, and act overly passive.
Right, because then you're just getting run over.
Exactly. You bring an intense level of physical presence, you look them in the eye, you sit up straight, you match the volume of the room.
But, and this is the vital distinction, you do not match their reactive angry vibration.
You do not absorb their emotion. You hold your calm alpha frequency, but you deliver it with the intensity required to be heard.
You become the loudest tuning fork by the sheer density of your calm presence. You meet them where they are energetically to establish the connection, but you hold the line emotionally to pull them toward coherence.
I love that phrase. You meet them energetically, but hold the line emotionally. Okay, prerequisite number 3 is the final catalyst. Create the field.
The mastermind effect requires a focal point. You must gently direct the group's chaotic attention away from their individual grievances and toward a shared purpose.
So you give all those disparate brains something to sync up to.
Yes.
At the dinner table, maybe you stand up and suggest a heartfelt toast to the hosts. Maybe you share a unifying, funny story that commands everyone's attention.
Or you elegantly direct the conversation toward a shared goal, like planning an upcoming family vacation.
The shared focus acts as the conductor. Combined with your dominant alpha frequency, the brain waves in the room synchronize.
Your chaos dissipates.
You have actively forged a mastermind out of a minefield.
It completely reframes our responsibility in social spaces. We're not victims of the vibe in a room. We are active co-creators of the biological reality we share with others.
Wow. We really started out stranded on the chaotic, high-stress, cortisol-fueled highway of a tense family dinner.
And we charted a path to the scenic B road.
We did. We learned how to code new habits using the RRR cycle, proving that overcoming static friction requires micro-reps. We embraced the macro-healing concepts of Don Miguel Ruiz, understanding the neurobiology of the angel of death and the biological armor of a warrior's discipline.
We mapped out our blind spots on the living room floor using face-down papers to leverage our spatial circuitry.
And when the pressure spiked, we used Hebb's postulate, pressing a physical knuckle to instantly summon our peace. Ultimately, we learned how our own regulated alpha frequency physically entrains the brainwaves of a dysregulated room into a synchronized mastermind.
It's an amazing toolkit. And as we conclude this deep dive, I really want to leave you with an expansive thought to explore on your own.
Oh, please do.
We have established the neurobiological reality that your personal alpha brainwaves can measurably entrain and calm a room full of stressed relatives. But what is the true limit of this resonant field? If collective coherence is a demonstrable biological fact, how does the frequency you hold inside yourself right now, while you are simply walking down a crowded street or sitting silently with your laptop in a busy coffee shop, subconsciously alter the neural networks of complete strangers?
Oh, wow.
How far does your tuning fork ring?
Man, that changes how you view a simple walk to get coffee. The ripple are invisible, but they are very real.
They absolutely are.
Well, in our next deep dive into the source material, we are going to take this synchronized mastermind energy and explore how to apply it across the physical, emotional, and energetic bodies to reach galactic championship levels of human performance. Until then, keep your hand on the wheel, keep cruising the B road, and keep raising the frequency.